Mr. True Crime.
Communications.
I'm a plumber and I'm on site for a job, and we're snaking a drain, and we've been pulling back. We probably pulled back about 10 pounds, 15 pounds of it looks like flesh type of stuff, meat, and we don't know what it is.
You've just heard the 911 call. What started as a routine job on an ordinary day quickly became anything but. A plumber, just trying to clear a stubborn clog, never expected to become part of a murder investigation. But what he pulled from the drain that day didn't just expose a horrifying truth. It uncovered a trail of darkness that led to 2 long-standing cold cases, finally bringing long-awaited answers to investigators and families alike. This is the case of Adam Strong. On December 29, 2017, tenants in the upstairs unit of an apartment on Macmillan Drive reported water backing up. Initially, it seemed like a simple fix, but after inspecting the pipes, the plumber realized the blockage ran deeper. To reach the source of the problem, he needed access to the basement suite where a man named Adam Strong lived. As he moved through the apartment, something strange caught his eye. The bathroom toilet was gone. It's weird, but not his problem. He focused on the job and traced the clog to the kitchen sink. That's when things got unsettling. When the plumber reached the pipes, he pulled out something stringy, fleshy, and tangled with hair. The more he pulled, the worse it got. By the time he was done, he had bagged nearly 15 pounds. All the while, Strong stood way too close, hovering over him, watching every move. After 3 long hours, the plumber finally got a chance to step outside. Without hesitation, he grabbed his phone and called 911. Within minutes, officers arrived at the scene. The plumber handed them a shopping bag filled with what looked like flesh, a stringy, sickening mass about 13 to 14 inches long. But nothing could prepare them for what Adam Strong was about to say. The officers weren't sure what they looked at, but they knew it wasn't normal. As the situation grew more unsettling, 4 officers headed to the basement and knocked on the door. When Adam Strong answered, one officer got straight to the point. "What have you been flushing down the toilet that you shouldn't have?" Adam Strong lowered his head and immediately confessed, "Okay, you got me. The gig's up. It's a body." The officers acted fast. Adam Strong was immediately arrested. As they put him in the back of the police car, he made another chilling comment. "I want to spill the beans." Realizing the gravity of the situation, an officer quickly read Strong his rights, warning him that anything he said could be used against him. But Strong didn't hold back. "If you want to recover the rest of her, it's in my freezer." At this point, detectives wondered if he was trying to get caught. When they opened the freezer, they found something unspeakable. Plastic bags. Inside them, head of female. The only question now, who did they belong to? The tattoo on the neck provided the first clue, but forensic confirmation was needed. DNA testing soon provided the answer. The remains belonged to Rory Hache, an 18-year-old who had been missing for months. This discovery connected the case to a gruesome September 11, 2017 finding. A fisherman and his grandson spotted something floating in Lake Ontario that day. It was a female torso. The head, limbs, pelvis, and internal organs were missing, making identification nearly impossible.
Murdered and dismembered, somebody killed a woman and dumped her remains. We are live over the Oshawa Harbor. Good evening. The busy spot along the waterfront is now a disturbing crime scene.
The discovery made by a fisherman and his grandson. They saw a torso in the water.
Lots of questions tonight, very few answers. Who was this woman? Where did she come from? Who wanted her dead?
Despite this devastating breakthrough, the case stalled. Investigators had no suspects, no precise timeline, and no actual leads. Rory's murder remained a mystery.
Well, it makes it very difficult for our investigators to try to come up with an identification with very little. So I know that we'll obviously have to rely on scientific methods, whether it's DNA, other things that the pathologist might be able to assist us with.
Now, standing in Adam Strong's apartment, investigators realized they had just uncovered the final pieces of a horrifying puzzle. But before investigators could fully understand how Rory ended up here, they needed to return to her story. Rory Hache was born on July 9, 1999, and grew up in Oshawa, Ontario. a suburb of Toronto, just an hour east of Lake Ontario. She was a member of the Canadian Cadets, a youth development program for 12 to 18-year-olds. She excelled, winning Cadet of the Year 2 years in a row at just 12 and 13. But high school changed things. Within her first month, she fell in with the wrong crowd and was introduced to meth. That moment marked the beginning of her battle with addiction, leading to a transient lifestyle. At times, she even turned to work to support her addiction. She had been caught in a downward spiral that led her to dark places. But Rory Hache had fought her way back. Before her disappearance, she had turned her life around. She had left drugs behind, rebuilt relationships, rented her apartment, and was preparing for motherhood. She was no longer the lost teenager battling addiction. She was a young woman with a future. Despite everything, Rory was a fighter. With the support of her family, she managed to get clean. She had been sober for 6 months, had a guidance counselor, a job, an apartment, and a solid plan for the future. But then, in August 2017, everything changed. That summer, Rory's mother was hospitalized after suffering injuries from an accidental fire. During this time, Rory went missing. Her last known conversation with her mother was on August 29, 2017. The following night, around 9 p.m. on August 30th, Rory was seen on surveillance footage at Lakeridge Health near downtown Oshawa. She had been taken there by a group of people to see the doctor probably, but Rory left before seeing a doctor. It may have been a relapse, but she left without seeing a doctor. A few days passed and concerns started to build. Friends at a local community center and her guidance counselor noticed she wasn't around. Her counselor contacted her family, who reported her missing after no one had heard from her. Rory's mother was still in the hospital. At first, she hadn't noticed Rory's absence, but her family realized something was wrong when her guidance counselor raised concerns. By then, Rory had already been missing for several days, but there was something else. Something only her mother knew. Just 2 weeks before she vanished, Rory confided in her mother. She thought she might be pregnant, so her mother supported her and gave her money to buy a pregnancy test. With her aunt by her side, Rory took the test. It was positive. Despite everything, Rory was excited. She wanted to keep the baby, and her family supported her decision. Her mother described her as hopeful for the future and ready to move forward with her life. But before she ever got the chance, she disappeared. At first, there was little movement in the case. Oshawa police treated Rory's disappearance as just another missing person report. Given her history, some assumed she had simply left on her own. But her mother refused to believe that. She knew Rory wouldn't just vanish without a word, especially not now. For months, her case went cold. But then, on December 29, 2017, the plumber's call changed everything. But before investigators could question Adam, he had already contacted a lawyer and refused to say anything beyond what he had already admitted. His lawyer quickly filed a request for bail, leaving investigators with just 24 hours to secure a confession. After that, any further questioning would require a court order. He leaned back in his chair, completely at ease, as if he were in control. There was no panic, no guilt, just arrogance. Strong treated the interrogation like a casual conversation, cracking jokes, making small talk, and even bragging about himself. He seemed to relish every second of it, as if he had been waiting for this moment.
You said to the officers, if you're looking for the rest of her, you'll find her in the freezer. My question to you is the person in that freezer, Rory?
I decline to answer that question.
Okay. You're saying you decline to answer it, but you're shaking your head this way. Does that mean anything?
No.
Okay. Any interest from you at all in telling us your side of things?
No.
Nothing?
No.
Okay. All right.
I was told these things go on for like hours. Is that true? Again, it's true.
3 hours had passed and the investigation was going nowhere. Adam was no longer cooperating. He was even denying his initial confession. With the bail hearing looming, investigators were running out of time. If they couldn't get him to talk, they might lose their only chance to keep him in custody.
We were just going in circles. Obviously, you don't care enough to help.
Are the tissues often needed?
Why, do you want some?
No, I'm good.
Yeah.
Investigators couldn't get a confession from Adam, so they had to rely on physical evidence. A thorough search of his apartment revealed damning proof. Rory's blood was found on the walls, and her running shoes were still inside. Piece by piece, they were building a case strong enough to convict him. Forensic analysis confirmed what investigators feared. Rory's body had been dismembered, and her cause of death was determined to be blunt force trauma. This wasn't just a murder, it was brutal and calculated. But the horrors didn't stop there. As forensic experts combed through the apartment, they uncovered another chilling discovery. On July 10, 2018, investigators identified the second victim as 18-year-old Candice Fitzpatrick, who had vanished nearly a decade earlier. DNA was found on a hunting knife and inside the freezer. Adam Strong wasn't just a killer. He was a predator who had hidden in plain sight for years. The more they searched, the more horrifying the discoveries became. Inside the apartment, they found Strong had even posed with a massive hunting knife about 1.5 feet long in selfies. Toys and a spreader bar are commonly used in bondage, and most disturbingly, an autopsy table positioned right behind his couch. 11 months after the investigation began, Adam Strong again sat down for an interview. This time, investigators were determined to get the answers they needed.
How you doing?
Good, you?
Had better days.
Oh, I'm sure. Paul Mitten.
Adam Strong.
Adam, you call me Paul today.
All right, Paul. I have been amazed at how well I have been treated. Other than a few staff members at the 8th egg.
And that's going to continue today.
Yeah.
I can tell you that. I mean,
Even after everything, Adam Strong dared to make demands. He told investigators he would share more information, but only if they brought him a feast from Wendy's. "You have to hear this," he said. "A feast from Wendy's, and then I'll tell you more." His order included a Wendy's triple with no pickles, iced tea with no ice, 2 value spicy chicken wraps, a grilled chicken Caesar salad, and ranch and Caesar dressing on the side. And as if he were ordering from a drive-thru,
what are you going to hankering me for?
Wendy's triple.
Yeah, that's doable.
No pickles. Iced tea, no ice. 2, their value, spicy chicken wraps, and a grilled chicken Caesar salad.
Okay.
Is that outrageous?
No, that's doable.
late, he casually asked, "Is there any way I can get a cigarette?"
Is there any way I can get a cigarette?
Strong grinned, acting like he was striking a deal with a friend, completely detached from the gravity of the situation. The investigator agreed and handed him the food. When he saw it, his face lit up with satisfaction, like he had just won a prize.
Oh! And a ranch and a Caesar? Oh my God, thank you.
The investigator hoped that a full stomach might loosen his tongue. Surprisingly, it worked.
Oh! No fries.
Didn't say fries,
It's a combo.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay, I'm over it. How old was Rory? 18. Okay, how much of her body did you guys get back? Obviously the entire skeletal structure, right?
Well, we obviously, whatever was in the house.
Yes,
we
in the
got.
freezer.
Yes.
And how much of it were you able to pull out of the pipes?
Quite a bit. It was bad luck.
Yeah, that's what I tell people. They're like, "You're stupid." I'm like, "You kidding me?"
Well,
That's an awesome way.
yeah.
I just got greedy, that's all.
When you start this, you said Christmas Eve.
Yes.
Are you doing this while it's frozen or partially defrosted?
Completely defrosted.
Okay. Now that would take several hours, wouldn't it?
No, not bathtub full of hot water.
Oh, okay. Like within a couple hours?
I wouldn't wager. I had to fill the bathtub up a few times.
To keep the water hot?
Yes.
Gotcha.
I don't know if I should really be talking about that, but ultimately you do have me on the... There's no getting around that.
Yep. All right, well, I'm going to blast.
Man, go get some sleep, dude.
Listen, I appreciate you sticking it out.
Well, for sure. I really have a choice.
No, but...
I probably said more than I should have.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. But that's okay.
With Candice's DNA now tied to Strong, investigators needed every bit of information they could get. Any detail, any slip-up could help solidify their case against him. Candice's fate had remained a mystery for nearly a decade. With each passing year, her case faded further into the background. Her family had feared the worst, but never gave up hope for answers. Those answers had arrived, but in the most horrifying way possible. 2 women, nearly 10 years apart, both fell victim to the same man, a predator who had lived among them unnoticed, hiding in plain sight. But his carefully constructed mask was slipping, revealing the true monster beneath. He moved unnoticed, blending into the background while his darkest urges grew stronger. To the outside world, he was just another quiet tenant in a cluttered basement apartment. But behind those walls, something far more sinister was festering. At 47, Adam Strong was an unemployed security guard who had lived in the same dingy rental for over a decade. Neighbors found him odd but unremarkable, someone who never drew attention. But inside his apartment, investigators uncovered a disturbing reality: violent pornography, graphic images, twisted memorabilia. His internet history was even darker: searches about murder, torture, and dismemberment. He wasn't just fascinated by violence, he was studying it. Strong lived a solitary life, working at a gas station with no close friends and little contact with family. The only part of his life he openly flaunted was his involvement in BDSM. When asked about the handcuffs found in his apartment, he eagerly described his dominant role in dom-sub relationships. Investigators found restraints, a dog collar, and various bondage items in his home. While BDSM is a consensual practice, witnesses would later reveal that Adam Strong took it to a dangerous level, one that crossed every possible line. And then there was his chilling admission: "I have all the characteristics of a serial killer." Until the day his secrets came spilling out of the drain. During interrogations, Strong described his early fascination with killing animals, particularly woodpeckers, and even claimed he had been sexually abused by a female babysitter at the age of 4. Strong wasn't just dangerous. He was calculating, cruel, and fully aware of his actions. After nearly a year of investigation, forensic teams finally completed their search. Adam Strong was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder for the deaths of Rory Hache and Candice Fitzpatrick. Despite his chilling confessions and the overwhelming evidence against him, Strong pleaded not guilty. While he admitted to dismembering both women, he denied killing them. His defense argued that the victims had overdosed and that Strong had merely panicked and disposed of their bodies. However, this theory fell apart when forensic evidence confirmed that Rory had suffered severe head trauma before her death. During the trial, Strong's disturbing behavior continued. He spoke casually about wanting to be comfortable in jail, even requesting TV and internet access. When confronted with the fact that Rory was pregnant at the time of her death, he smugly denied it, despite medical confirmation. The prosecution presented a damning case, supported by the forensic evidence linking both victims to his apartment and witness testimonies detailing his violent tendencies. His shocking admissions to the police. Adam Strong's dark fantasies didn't stay in his mind. They turned into actual violence. 5 women came forward during the trial with chilling testimonies about their experiences with him. Among them were former girlfriends and sex workers who had encountered his growing obsession with control and domination. One ex-girlfriend recalled that Strong wasn't violent at first, but over time his fascination with disturbing videos, particularly those depicting death, took hold. His behavior became more aggressive. He started choking her unconscious during sex, and eventually the word no meant nothing to him. But it didn't stop there. She described how Strong would, at random moments, approach her and choke her into unconsciousness, entirely outside of any sexual context. Others testified that they had only stayed with him because they were struggling with addiction, and he provided a roof over their heads. He preyed on vulnerability, using manipulation and control to trap the women in his life. And for Rory Hache and Candice Fitzpatrick, his need for dominance would turn deadly. Despite his cold, detached confession, Adam Strong refused to admit to murder. He insisted that the women had overdosed, trying to shift the blame. But the evidence told a different story, and the jury didn't buy it. On March 16, 2021, the verdict was announced. Guilty of first-degree murder for Rory Hache. Guilty of manslaughter for Candice Fitzpatrick. Because Candice's remains were never fully recovered, prosecutors couldn't prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Strong had murdered her. But there was no doubt in anyone's mind. In March 2021, Adam Strong was convicted of first-degree murder for Rory Hache's death. However, in Candice Fitzpatrick's case, the judge ruled there wasn't enough evidence to prove intent. Instead, Strong was found guilty of manslaughter, as possession of her remains made it clear he played a direct role in her death. On May 27, 2021, Adam Strong was sentenced to life in prison with no possibility of parole for 25 years. The judge made it clear that Strong was beyond rehabilitation, stating, "You may never be capable of feeling the damage you have caused. You are a dangerous predator. You decided to feed your selfish desires, and in doing so, you took 2 vulnerable lives." Then came his final words. "Your moment before us is done, but from here you will go to prison. You will never be seen in public again. In time you will be forgotten. You will neither be famous nor infamous. You will simply be gone." Though Strong will likely never walk free again, the pain he inflicted on Rory and Candice's families can never be undone. But with his conviction, justice was finally served. 14 years after Candice Fitzpatrick went missing, her remains were finally recovered, thanks to information provided by Adam Strong. In July 2021, Durham police received word that Strong, while incarcerated, had disclosed the location of Fitzpatrick's remains. Over the following weeks, investigators interviewed him, leading them to a wooded area behind Secreto Drive in Oshawa. Between November 8th and November 13th, police uncovered human remains, which were later confirmed to belong to Fitzpatrick. At a press conference, both Rory Hache's and Fitzpatrick's families were present, embracing each other after the news was announced. Hache's mother, Shannon Dion, called it a miracle that Candice was finally found, but made it clear that Strong did not deserve credit for it. She believed his confession was not out of remorse, but the weight of his conscience catching up to him. Authorities confirmed that Strong was not offered any incentives or privileges in exchange for the information. However, his conviction remains unchanged. Since he had already been found guilty of manslaughter in Fitzpatrick's case, no additional charges could be pursued. The emotional weight of this case was immeasurable. But for the families of Rory Hache and Candice Fitzpatrick, the discovery of Candice's remains brought a bittersweet form of closure. At a press conference, emotions ran high as both families embraced, finally having an answer after years of uncertainty. Rory Hache's mother, Shannon Dion, called the discovery a miracle, but firmly believed that Adam Strong did not deserve any credit. "Conscience is ugly when you're dealing with it in the dark all by yourself," she said, clarifying that she wasn't grateful to him. She was thankful to God.
I'm feeling amazing. What are you guys feeling? Right?
I'm happy. It's a good outcome. Finally, after 13 years,
Excited.
We can move on, start a new chapter now, start honoring my daughter.
This moment, filled with raw grief, relief, and unresolved pain, was captured in a robust clip that showed the family's reactions to the news.
So it's Candice's day, and Rory's day. It's both their day, really. You know, they've each had their time. Finally, they can both rest in peace. This piece of crap can go rot in hell.
The horrifying crimes of Adam Strong shook the Oshawa community. The loss of Rory Hache and Candice Fitzpatrick wasn't just a tragedy for their families. It was a chilling reminder of the evil that can hide in plain sight. Both young women had bright futures ahead, but their lives were stolen most unimaginably. For years, their families held on to hope while fearing the worst. Though Strong's conviction brought justice, it could never erase their pain. Rory Hache's mother said, "My daughter was full of life and deserved so much more. No parent should have to endure what we have." The wait for answers was over for Candice Fitzpatrick's family, but the reality was devastating. The case left a lasting scar on their loved ones and an entire city that unknowingly harbored a predator in its midst. But for too many families, the wait for answers never ends. Roxanne Wood's loved ones spent 35 years trapped in uncertainty, whispers, and suspicions that never faded. Everyone thought they knew who killed her. But they were wrong. The real killer had been walking free for over 3 decades, and the man accused by nearly everyone. He had been telling the truth the entire time. Click on the next video to uncover the shocking twists that finally brought justice to Roxanne Wood's case. This is Adam Strong, smirking in the interrogation room, calm, almost amused. But that smirk won't last long. He's here because a plumber couldn't fix a clogged drain. What should have been a simple repair turned into a horrifying revelation, one that exposed one of the most shocking murder cases in Canadian history.